All right, people, it is that time again. G-Mart comic book haul, right? The comic books I'm going to be showing today come from an online store that I've used probably since about 2000, 2001, whatever. And I get 35% discount, if they're new. This is the way I've been, really buying some of the new stuff for years. And the comics that I have here accumulated probably from May of 2019 up until about 2 weeks ago, second week of October 2019, right? And it's really interesting that I think this haul came to 33 comics in the course of, what is that, 6 months, something like that, give or take. And there's some good stuff in there, and there's a few things that I've been able to read ahead of time before I got it, and wow, I've already done a review on one or two things. All right. So one of the first things I want to show here is get this out of the way is Doomsday Clock. I might I might praise a few books. I might just be honest and tell you how I've read them. I am a mess. I just got home from work, and I tell you, it was the Monday that I've heard people have over the years and stuff, right? So one of the cool things about when I order from G-Mart and I get these comics is that you get a order form for every batch of comics, and it tells you when they came out. And apparently with Doomsday Clock, I got number 10 and number 11. For you guys, people that may not remember Doomsday Clock or gave up on it or whatever, basically Doomsday Clock was supposed to be the sequel to The Watchmen. This book started, I think, in November of 2017. Who knows, right? But it's been taken forever to get these 12 issues out. And when I look at the order forms for when they came out, one came out September 3rd of this year, and the other one came out 5/28. That's almost a month over a quarterly schedule. I mean, I know they keep putting it off because they're doing, hey, what's up, guys? Yes, I'm in the house. The mouse is in the house. That's so funny. Yeah. Showing a little bit of comic book haul, right? So as people cruise on in here, since people are coming in, go ahead and give this video a like, subscribe, share it, let people know we're here. And I'll start showing some comics here in just a second. Oh man, because I really need this. Today was a hell of a day after work, right? So the first thing I have here are the variant editions, right? This is Doomsday Clock. What is it? Number 10 and number 11, right? Now, I'm telling you what, Gary Frank, I dig the art. I totally get that. They're not only using Doomsday Clock as a sequel to The Watchmen, but, this was also supposed to be the payoff for a 2-year plan that DC had starting around 2015 that we were guaranteed that this is her apology for DC 52 and stuff. And it's just gone off the rails. And this was supposed to be ushering in the return of the Justice Society of America. It's supposed to be ushering back our Legion of superheroes and things like that. And it has a great big huge conspiracy in it, a mystery. And it totally gone off the rails, and it's supposed to have a climax that's supposed to be coming out soon, one day, of Superman versus Dr. Manhattan. Now that we've gotten this far through here, I've read the first 11 issues of this. If you guys are old enough to remember Happy Days, the show wasn't exactly perfect, but it was fun. But they had a spinoff. They had a bunch of spinoffs, but this is the Joni Loves Chachi. This isn't a sequel to Watchmen. This is Joni Loves Chachi compared to The Watchmen, right? Same world, less than great results, has some high points, had some moments that were actually pretty cool. But Marionette and Mime, who are based on the Charlton Comics heroes that got brought into the DC universe, Punch and Julie. I think there's something that came out of this that was really cool, right? I think those two might have a future if they wake up. But there's lots of things behind there why this series kind of went off the rails, and I'll just be glad when it's over and I can read it completely. Last night, as I'm recording this, I watched the first episode of the Watchmen television show. Excuse me. The Watchmen television show that's on HBO, and I'm holding off. I was actually going to try to do reaction videos right after the show went off, my first impressions and stuff. And I'm not sure that we're seeing what we think we see when you watch that show, so I'm going to be holding off on that, right? Okay, so the next thing I have here is a one. It's not exactly a one shot, but this is a sequel to Batman White Knight, I guess. Sean Murphy, but apparently I lost interest really quick here. But I have number one of Batman Curse of the White Knight. And right there on the cover, I'm going to assume this is a variant, man. We have Azrael. So Azrael, who, as we know, became a Batman there during the early 90s after Bane broke the bat. Joe Quesada, Denny O'Neil really did some interesting things with this character, and it blows my mind how big of a following Azrael has been able to keep over the years. It blows my mind. A lot of people keep telling me I need to check it out and look at it and do this and do that. I've just never really gotten around to it, but apparently this is a DC Black Label book. It kind of threw me off because right there we know that hey, Rob Ripa's out there, cool, man. But as we know, Black Label and Vertigo over the last year and a half, whatever, have really become train wrecks. So it doesn't surprise me that they put this little, it's real tiny there. You got to look for it. And most of the books are oversized. I have some in here, right? Now, one of the books I have enjoyed, and it's more creator than it is the company. Okay. But what I've sort of like is sort of, he's out in space. And what's cool about cosmic stories sometimes is when they escape the continuity, they get away from what's going on in that universe with the other comics and stuff. They can kind of do their own thing. And this is, of course, Grant Morrison's Daredevil. Grant Morrison's Green Lantern. I'll tell you why I messed up there, right? Because whenever I used to play around with the characters and stuff when I was a kid, trying to find connections and stuff because it was fun. But I always thought that Daredevil should have been a Green Lantern because he's the man without fear, you know, much like the Green Lantern. There I am. I'm going to go on a tangent about the book I wanted to do. The book I wanted to do would be have Matt Murdock, the Daredevil, become a Green Lantern, a blind man using a light weapon, you know. But anyway, we left off. I think I was on issue 5. Yeah, this is number 6. I get the variant editions, the variant covers. Keep the glare off there the best I can. How ironic that I get a high def camera that works, the good internet, and bam, we end up getting glare all of a sudden. But anyway, what is really cool about this is Grant Morrison has escaped the trappings of what hurt this book, in my opinion, is following Jeff Johns on it. Jeff Johns did amazing things on Green Lantern that really, to me, peaked and led up for years up to from the Sinestro Corps War all the way up to Blackest Night. And Blackest Night was fantastic. So what Grant Morrison does is that he just kind of moves forward with kind of not ignoring everything that's happened. It's just he's got a story to tell, and it's more of a cop thing, undercover cop, space cop. You know, he's going that way with it, with the theme. But what is really cool is I think it was issue 5. We left off where he's on the planet of the vampires. Grant Morrison is actually playing around with the idea of he has no fear. And he doesn't really just spoon feed to you. There's not a lot of words in here, a lot of prose or anything like that talking about how Green Lanterns overcome fear and you're fearless and all this stuff like that. He's walking around on a planet on vampires. It feels like Halloween when you read it, but Hal Jordan isn't reacting to any of this stuff that should be freaking him out. I think he was walking like through a lake of blood. Liam Sharp, I think that's who they are. Yeah, Liam Sharp was playing around putting Easter eggs in there of vampires from other movies and things like that, and it was really fun. But the biggest thing that got me is that where it was a planet of vampires, I think of that old 70s movie, The Actual Planet of Vampires. That was sci-fi. So we're getting some sci-fi horror. He's really felt like he was really building up to this, right? So here's number 6. Great covers. Like I said, I think these are the variants. What do we got here? Number 7. No idea what's going on in these. I held off reading these online because I really just want to read it. So apparently it's 12 issues that are done. And then we have Grant Morrison, whatever the ending is in this Green Lantern 12-issue run. They didn't tell you it was going to be a 12-issue miniseries. But apparently he becomes a Black Star or a Dark Star. I keep saying the Dark Star because that's what they were, but they may have tweaked it a little bit. There's one issue of this where we have a Green Lantern from a demon dimension in the multiverse. I kind of wished I went back and got the regular cover to that one because it was just fantastic when I saw it. But I'm sure I'll pick it up somewhere along the way. These are just fantastic covers, you know. Here's one for Infinity. Who knows what's going on here? And here we go, number 12. This is where it all ends. We'll see what happens. You know, do we have another Hall Jordan going evil story? What we got here? Getting ready to start shooting episodes, but saw that Tim was on and had to check live for a change. Well, thank you there, Surly Tim Fun Bunker. Everybody go sub that man. I found it funny that John's Green Lantern was left essentially untouched after Flashpoint, just like New Teen Titans were left virtually unchanged after the Crisis. That's from Tom Bagley and stuff like that. You know, they were basically untouched, but the whole way that the Green Lantern was being written as of at the start of DC 52, I actually sat down and read the first 18 issues where they gave Green Lantern a #1 following, you know, everything that was going on, The Blackest Night. That was a book that didn't really need to be fixed. It was hitting on all cylinders. So all of a sudden we get the DC 52. I read 18 issues in a row, and they're exactly where they are 18 issues from #1. You know, 1 to 81, nothing's changed. They're still floating around. Green Lantern was still needing, you know, Hal Jordan was still needing a ring. He was still hanging out with Sinestro. Nothing happened. Nothing changed. It actually drove me a little nuts to read that. I could just imagine trying to read that book month to month. I'm glad I had them all there, but I was hanging in there because it's Jeff Johns on there. The book storytelling and quality wise went way down. You talk about a book, it's just got dumbed down. I think that was the whole thing with 52. A lot of books got dumbed down. Okay. I felt that this run of Green Lantern has slipped hard following the 5th issue. So that's amazing, Surly Tim, because that's exactly where I left off reading the book. So, okay, I'll hang in there. Let me get a few stinkers out of the way here in the middle of it, right? Apparently, I ordered Free Comic Book Day. You guys remember Free Comic Book Day that hits in, what is it, April, May, whatever. The last couple years, the books that they've had in there, to me, Free Comic Book Day should be something a little bit special. You're trying to hook people or use that as an event like they used to. Mouse Guard comes out with a hardback miniature book. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Something special that they'd hook you in. So apparently, not only did DC put out some stinkers here, from what I can tell, that nobody has talked about, but they're not even regular comic book size because these are regular comic book bags. I'm sure I'll crack this open, but what is this? Dear Justice League? I know it's probably a kid's book, but how did I get it? I don't know. Okay, because I actually got to pick out some of the Free Comic Book Day stuff I wanted. So I can get seeing this, but even now they're shrinking them. I'm telling you what, any book could be somebody's first comic, and if you're going to give away comics for free and go all out for it, wanting to hook people, I really think you should give them some quality, right? So we're going to continue with the DC stuff, right? What we got here? Okay. Here's the stinkers on here, right? Now, the thing that's the saving grace in this, because I was really mad about pre-ordering these, even though I knew better. I mean, I did it's one of the few comic book review videos I've done in the last couple months. But these are the Legion of Superheroes Millennium books, the 2-issue miniseries that was supposed to lead up to the Legion of Superheroes #1 by Bendis. And I've said it before. It's in the video. Bendis is the I Told You So writer. I did find it interesting that I also had a follow-up video called DC Trolling Me, because in my review of #1, I kept saying it was like he was looking at the artist saying, and then you get into issue #2, and every time that there's a sync from the page 1, and every time they switch time eras, it says, and then. This kind of made me wonder. But I am going to tell you, I feel bad for the artist. If there's anything on his, they nailed the art. And these variant editions, despite it having booster gold, I can forgive that. They go together. And we have a very cool connecting cover. This would actually be a cool poster. Because what's interesting is that it's not the Legion front and center there. If you look at this, you know, it's the other characters. Commandy, OMAC, excuse me. So horrible read. And unfortunately, I also have Superman 15 that was You're the Villain crossover. It's a variant cover. And on the last page, we're supposed to have the Legion of Superheroes pop up or something, right? We're just going to set those to the side and move on to bigger and better things. Okay. Now, one of the things that apparently have been selling really well. Oh, here we go. Nope, no comments here. Okay. So one of the other things I find that are very cool, and I really have no problem buying these, which is amazing, but we get these facsimile editions of comics. And I grabbed a few of them over the months, and I see absolutely nothing wrong with them because apparently they also reprint the actual ads and letters pages and exactly the comic exactly how it was, right? Now I have this in like a Millennium edition, some other reprint, and a collected edition, everything like that. But I went ahead and got House of Secrets number 92 because, you know, first appearance of Swamp Thing, and I love my Swamp Thing. I mean, you would think I love my Man Thing, but it's kind of hard to show that around without offending people sometimes. But I really dig my Swamp Thing. If I had to choose, this is Tom Bagley. Geez, if I had to choose a writer to do Legion, a book with dozens of characters with different personalities, I wouldn't have chosen Bendis. I'd put him on a science police book. My whole thing with Bendis is when I do praise Bendis is because his crime stuff is so good. I'm one of those people that holds out hoping he starts writing his crime stories again. Police, detectives, anything. Excuse me. All right. But anyway, these facsimile editions are out there. And a couple months ago, I mean, it just really blew my mind that if these are selling, if people are actually getting these and these dollar reprints that they have, I'll show you in a minute. Dan Didio was really angry about people buying these at a comic book convention. Now, this is probably the third video that I've mentioned that. But it just blows my mind. I mean, what are they so scared of with these editions? You know, trying to say that they're trying to move forward, but people want the older stuff. Again, it goes. I keep thinking that it's a business, and you make what people want that they're going to buy. Now, one that I was really excited about because this is one of those books that I just know that if I do run across another issue, I'm never going to be able to afford it. Sadly, I had my hands on it as a kid, but it wasn't my book. So I actually got to read this. These are $3.99, but that's all right. First appearance of Ra's al Ghul, reprint of Batman 232 with Robin. So I think these are just fantastic. I think these are really good deals. I do wonder if putting out these key books like this, reprinting them, even though, you know, I mean, it's got to be making some money because the work is done. I don't know if they do royalties or not for these older stories and stuff, but the work is done when it comes to the artist, writer, and everything like that. And it's $3.99 for better paper, I'm assuming, and stuff. I haven't cracked it open. But yeah, you know, these back issues. Now, this is a dollar comic with a new cover, but I think this reprints Joker #1 from the 70s. I think what's going on here is we have You're the Villain. So DC's been putting out some, you know, extra stuff to kind of go with that theme with their major books, but we get new covers. But this was $1, and I think it reprints Joker #1 from, you know, the 70s, which is just fun. I have that. I actually had all those Joker issues. I also had the Shazam books from the 70s, a full run and stuff. Sold them a few years ago, and then won 2 copies of Joker #1 in an auction, which was pretty cool, right? But I really dig that cover. I don't see who actually did the cover, but it's heavily influenced by a little Brian Boland. I see a little Jim Aparo in there, and I also see some Philip Jose Farmer. Wait a minute, not Philip Jose Farmer. That's a writer. Garcia Lopez, one of my favorite artists. I do that all the time with those. Oh, and look, Batman is on the cover. He's way back here. So it's very cool. Let me see. Cool. Isn't that supposed to be Louise Simonson on the Swamp Thing cover? She was a model for Bernie Wrightson before becoming an editor. Okay, yeah, cool trivia there. Thanks for pulling it up. Yeah, this is when she was Louise Jones, and I think she was married to a guy named Jeff Jones. Jeff Jones. who was a fantastic artist who years later actually supposedly went all the way with a sex change. We'll just leave it at that and stuff, right? But yes, this is her. And I remember years ago hearing the story of how, but pre-internet days, someone actually found out that this was Louise Jones, who later would become Louise Simonson. Hope I'm getting that name right. But anyway, brought it up and wanted her to sign it. And she was sort of like, well, I didn't work on this book. And they went, well, isn't that you? And that's when the cat got out of the bag. That's when she was like, she fessed up and went, yes, I was the model for that. So yeah, a little trivia history here. I'm trying to think if she was with someone else. There's a whole bunch of them that hung out in the early 70s. Lynn Wine, and who ended up marrying somebody in the business also and stuff. But yeah, that was about it. Okay. Now here's something that, you know, I didn't buy this expecting the book to take off. It's one of the few books that, and the reason I'm bringing this up is that I had a conversation about it in real life, but I didn't really think about this book going up in value or being rare or anything like that. But every now and then you can pick up a book where you have somebody interesting come into comics and write something. I gotta get these fixed. But anyway, but this one, I have a Spider-Man Web of Spider-Man book or Tangled Webs. Anyway, there's a series of Spider-Man that didn't last very long. They had Raven come in, the Wrestler, to write a flashback story about the Wrestler who Peter Parker wrestled against in his origin story, right? But we have one of the kings of horror, John Carpenter, coming in and writing a Joker story. This is a one-shot, so I'm very excited to see what they got out of him. I can't imagine John Carpenter actually sitting down and doing an entire script, but he had his hand in it with no doubt. The reason that Didio is uptight about the older book reprint selling better is that it spits in the face of the future plans with the 5G stuff. Yeah, they have that. That would make sense. They knew what was coming down the line, and then everybody's buying the older stuff. So that'll be interesting. And I'm going to have to email. Duck. That's his guy's name that does the customer service for G-Mart, because these are heavily damaged in the corners, which is sad. Wow. Yeah, these are oversized books that they stuck in those bags. But are they in order? Yeah, they're in order here. But we're down to the Black Label stuff, right? So I got the Frank Miller Batman. Try this again. We had the Black Label Frank Miller Superman 1 story. I think I did a video earlier in the year talking about expectations on this, right? So number 3 is already out. Okay. It actually came out the day after this order was completed that they mailed to me. I was like, well, so all 3 issues are out. They're oversized. And Frank Miller really divides people these days. And I don't defend everything he does, and I don't praise everything he does, but I don't put down everything he does, right? Take it at face value there. And I've heard there's been some messed up stuff happening in those, so we'll see what happens. But Frank Miller has wanted to get a hold of Superman for years. A lot of people were worried about this because he's made him look like an idiot in his Dark Knight Return books, like he didn't have any respect for the guy. Who knows? Yeah, Tom Bagley. I think Raven did a story about the Wrestler spot. Yeah. And I think his name was like Crusher Hogan or something that I was trying to spit out there, but yeah, Raven the Wrestler did that book. I think the series was called Tangled Webs. That was messing me up. I really blanked out on what the series was called. I like having books like that are just kind of like little one shots and stuff, right? Okay, so the other one is every now and then I'll get a really cool back issue from Tomorrow Publishing, right? I met Mike Urey, who is the sort of the editor, I believe, of what is it called? This is Back Issue. Yeah, Back Issues. And there's like a gentleman agreement with Roy Thomas, who does Alter Ego. These are both magazines. And basically, Mike Urey gets the Bronze Age up until the modern times, and Roy Thomas gets the Golden Age and the Silver Age when they do their themes of their books, right? And this is the 30th anniversary of Tim Burton's Batman movie. One that I still love, one that gets played in this house regularly. If you have me on Facebook or something like that, you'll see we watched it sometime in the last 2 weeks here. And it was so good to go back and revisit this movie, right? But I really love this classic Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton, the Batman. That's just one of the best, right? And as I was saying, these are kind of damaged. I don't know if it's going to show up. Look at that, all bent up on the corners. I'm pretty sure they'll replace them without a problem. That one has been up. Look at that. I'll send them some pictures when I email them. Look at that. Oh, that's happened before. It's even on the top one. Now, this has happened before with them, and apparently they're magazine size, so they don't have boards to put in them, but I'll probably get those replaced. They have replaced them before. They actually offered to replace one whole order that I had one time, and I just asked for 2-3 books specifically, and they set me up with some really rare variant editions there. No matter how many stories DC produces about Superman's origin, John Byrne's Man of Steel is still my Bible. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many ways to tell these origin stories. I think they've been done to death once. One of the amazing things about a lot of comic books is how origin stories have become part of pop culture where people know them, even the ones that don't read comics. Between movies and radio and cartoons, it just kind of permeated and became part of our backdrop. And, seriously, in pop culture society, people know it. Everybody knows Krypton. Everybody knows that Superman was the last survivor. What more do you really have to touch on? One of the worst things I think they can put back in any movie ever again is to one more time show the origin of Batman. I mean, how many times do we have to see his parents get shot down and mugged and everything in an alley in the movies? It's just a waste of time. Everybody knows it. Move on, I think they waste a lot of film time and a lot of stuff that they could fill in with story there by doing that. It includes in comics also. No matter how, let's see what we got here. DeFalco and Friends also did a story about the Wrestler during their Amazing Spider-Man run in the 80s. That's Con Sooth. I'm wanting to say I remember that, but DeFalco and Friends, I think they were on Spider-Man when I was about 12. I think that's when that was going on. I remember the Red Fox. I remember the fox popping up. That was a thief that came on. That was a theme. I remember a lot about the Hobgoblin. It's not really standing out what issue they did of Crusher Hogan there. That would be kind of cool to see. And I hope that's his name. All right, so now we're into the indie books. Just a few more here. And I'm really excited about these books. There's some stuff in here that I'm just like, even if it's bad, I'm just kind of glad to have it, right? So the first one I have, and I don't know if this is an ongoing, I don't know if it's a mini series, but I just took a chance on the first issue because it's a comic book company that I've really never sampled anything from, right? But Blade Runner 2019, okay, from Titan Comics. I'm a huge Blade Runner fan. Ghost in the Shell is heavily influenced by Blade Runner. I read things that you can tell they're Blade Runner influenced and things like that. And so I always give it a chance. Even some of the bad, I've never read anything that was so blasphemous towards Blade Runner that I had to throw it out. Now I like the 2049 movie. I was down for that. I dug it. And actually, if you watch the movie, Blade Runner is supposed to be happening in the present. We are there. We're in that future. Byrne's Man of Steel is being released in omnibus form in a few months. If I didn't already own them, I would snag it in a heartbeat. That's Shirley Tim. I bought those off the stand. I really lucked up. Being able to start leaving. I would walk home from middle school just to get away from riding the bus and stuff, and you could get it right. You could have a parent write a note saying it's okay for you to walk home from school. So every evening I would walk home from school, and that I was able to stop at a drugstore to oh, what was it? It's still there. But I'd stop at a drugstore and then I'd be able to ride the bus. And I was able to just really get out a lot more. And I bought all that Burn stuff. I started out with the Marv Wolfman, the big revamp, reboot that they did after Christ on Infinite Earth. I was there month to month to month for it. And I feel like John Byrne's Superman run really took off with issue 3, which was a Legends crossover, a crossover with Legends, the miniseries and stuff, where we got to see Darkseid. Byrne brought in the New Gods on him, and to me, that's when that took off. Man of Steel was fine. That was leftover pages and things like that he already had, and I think that remember he used those in issue 1. But it was just a real exciting time, and people were finally talking about Superman. People were saying he Marvelized Superman. Whatever. There was great stuff in those books, great art, great energy, and those books were moving forward to where by the time we got to Byrne's last issue, he brought in the Matrix Supergirl. We got to see this great story where we see an Earth dying. We see a Lex Luthor that's the hero of the world, the time trapper. We kind of got some closure there with Byrne leaving. Yeah. Okay, Usagi Yojimbo, number 1. I'm late to the game reading Usagi Yojimbo. Late to the game. I think I've had my hand in it in 3 years. I've known who Usagi is. I have met Stan Sakai. I have some stuff signed by him. I had friends recommending this book forever. Blah, 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 blah. I finally pulled the trigger, and it's one of the best books out there, in my opinion. So for him to go from Dark Horse? Anyway, he's changed companies, which is why we're getting another number 1 here of Usagi Yojimbo, but he's with IDW now. And I tell you what, I do believe he was at Dark Horse, and I don't know. I have suspicions of what's been going on at Dark Horse, to where they've been losing a lot of properties and licensing and people moving on. But big nod to the tip of the hat for Mike Mignola for sticking with him with Hellboy. That Yojimbo book is really good. I never thought that I would need the character in color, but I do. Yeah, I got you. So this next book is supposed to be a swan song. I've been waiting on this. Sometimes there's books I just don't push because I know they're not for everybody. But I actually prefer books like this where you got to work a little bit when you read them. You know what I mean? Kind of push you. You take your time with it, look in it, find things, reread it later. And to me, that's the magic. It's got that rereadability where you can go back and find new things or read in a different way. But this is also supposed to be the swan song of Pat Mills and Alan Moore. This is supposed to be the last one, and this is also the last issue of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen with a theme of 2000 AD, which to me is kind of full circle and proper because, I think, Alan Moore's earlier work appeared in 2000 AD. I'm sure he did some indie stuff or something like that. What do we got here? It's a beautiful tale. He can go from samurai adventure. Okay, we're talking about Yojimbo. It's a beautiful tale. He can go from samurai adventure to monster story to detective story seamlessly. I love, cool. Very cool. ComX, did you receive my message? Apparently not. Okay. Apparently not. Let me look. No message, my man. Okay, we can try again and let me know where you're sending it. If it's on YouTube, I don't get alerts for YouTube. Twitter will give me an alert and things like that. But anyway, this is issue 6 of the last story of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And it is also supposed to be the creators' last issue in their careers ever as to retire. So we'll see what happens. And like I said, if you've read any of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, you know that they pull from so many sources, old movies, literature, every now and then comics, which blows my mind when you think about it. But this has its roots in, the pulp novels. You should know a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And it blows my mind that I'm wondering if this is their 20th anniversary. I'll have to check that out. See what year that came out. Count Von Strange is here. All right. What's up, brother? All right. So I've decided to quit buying books like by this creator like Goon, even though I recommend Goon. I recommend you buy this man's books and stuff. My problem is the scheduling, keeping up with the books, trying to figure out when they're coming out. He's so sporadic and stuff, right? But this is Hillbilly. Hillbilly, Red-Eyed Witchery from Beyond, part 4 of 4. The first series was 12 issues, and they're very good when they finally did come out. And then he had a mini series come out, and now he's gone back to Goon, Eric Powell. And these are some of the best books out there reading Hillbilly, I think. They just feel like comic books, so, significance stories that aren't all cosmic and stuff, but it's sort of like he took the idea of a wandering knight and put it in the hillbilly hills, the Appalachians, and but he killed one. He just killed so much momentum because it took forever to get the books out. There was people reading it, people enjoying it, and I really praised it and pushed it, and felt like I came off with an egg on my face because people were digging it, but they just didn't know when it was coming out and couldn't find it, and moved on to other things. Hillbilly, what do we got here? Oh, ComX, only a greeting from Italy. All right, we have somebody from Italy watching. Well, thank you, ComX. Good to see you. That's pretty cool. Count Von Strange, Hillbilly is a good read in my opinion. ComX, what do you think about Hawks and Pox by Hickman? Haven't read it. Count Von Strange, he did take forever to release new issues. Yeah, and that's what I mean. Eric Powell stuff, I highly recommend the Goon. I think Goon is one of the best books to be put out in the last 30 years. I mean, it's fantastic. The humor in it, to turn on a dime and have a horrific moment, to turn on a dime and to be feeling bad for a character that's just bawling his eyes out. Just great stuff. It can be emotional. It can be funny. It can be scary. Great stuff. Hillbilly was great stuff. I loved Hillbilly. They had an issue where it was a 3D comic, but the way he used the 3D, it was the best use of 3D. He tied it into the story, the moments that were in 3D. Just fantastic stuff. I mean, it's great stuff, but just get the book out, And then I've taken a chance on something. I've read Dr. Star. I think I've read an issue or two of Black Hammer. And this is a crossover by Jeff Lemire, Dark Horse in DC, where we have Black Hammer meets Justice League. I have number 1 and 2. Some of these may be variant covers. I really don't remember. But I stopped ordering them because I just want to read and see if they're good. You know what I mean? People really, really praise Black Hammer and this whole universe that they have, right? I just hope it's not derivative and that it is more of a homage, to older comics and stuff, right? And besides, I love Bizarro. I really love Bizarro. Comics, favorite comics in this period. About anything by Grant Morrison right now. Green Lantern, like I said, Green Lantern I thought was a fantastic read, but I have people in the chat telling me that it dropped in quality after issue 5, which is where I stopped, and I have the rest of them. Yeah, the other things that I would tell people to go read, Yosagi Yojimbo for sure. I mean, I really have to struggle to where I would really recommend something that's consistently well. And I hate being that way, but I'm not going to steer people right or wrong, even though I know this is just a talk, for fun. Now, I will say that I'm sort of wanting to delve more and more into European comics like Tardy. Tardy is fantastic. I love his stuff. Talk about a good old crime comic with some surrealism in there or something. Great stuff there. But yeah, comics, we're kind of in a lull. We're in a lull, if you will. Yosagi Yojimbo, I'd recommend that one. The new Grendel 8-issue maxi series is pretty good. Grendel is, man, that's a heavy read sometimes, man. One of my favorite books, amazingly, I don't know if it's pure Grendel. What's her name? Rose? Her name. Anyway, was the Matt Wagner doing the Batman Grendel crossover books, the two-issue miniseries. Those were fantastic. Okay, moving on there. Dylan Dog, the Italian comic. Oh, I do know Dylan Dog. And I'm trying to think if there's a movie on a streaming service or a cartoon. I know Dylan Dog, even though I haven't read any of the comics. I think there's been something made of them, like a show or a movie or something. Oh, I'm trying to think what it is. ComX has just pulled something out of left field. We got the bells and the whistles going, but I do know I liked it. I did read some Dylan Dog. I did like it. Oh, wow. Yeah, there we go. That is cool. That's why I love doing this sometimes. People will bring it out here, right? So anyway, that's the books here. That's the haul. We can answer some more questions if you want, if you guys want to talk about it. But like I said, I'm going to have to email customer service for G-Mart and get my books replaced because I paid for them. I never would have bought that in a store. And like I said, they do really well replacing my books. I'll send you some pictures of that into the box. Hopefully I can get that replaced also. So I can read those without having to worry about smudging them and stuff, right? All right, now that's the comic book haul. I need to eat dinner per usual. Have you seen Giffen's Inferior 5 yet? No, I have not, and I love Keith Giffen's stuff, and I think it was last year, the year before last, I finally got to meet Keith Giffen. Had no idea how much of his stuff that I have. Right? So I will definitely be checking out his Inferior 5. Do you think that the revelation on the next Superman about his identity would be doable? Do you think that the revelation on the next Superman about his identity? I'm going to do a spoiler warning here if this is what I think about, but I think it's all over the news and stuff. I did see Bendis say that Superman revealing his secret identity isn't a hoax or something. It's really going to happen. This has been done it's been done before. This has been done before. That's not, to me, it's really not a big deal. I go all the way back to whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow by Alan Moore, the last Silver Age story in Superman and Action Comics right before Byrne came on. And, I've seen what would happen. He got his identity revealed. He gave it up. Spider-Man it happened with Spider-Man. The thing about Bendis's stuff is it seems like no matter what he does, at any point in time, and it doesn't take long, it's all undone like it never happened. To me, that's just not a big deal. It's like, oh, Superman's dead again. Big deal. His identity gets revealed. It just doesn't excite me. But maybe some younger, someone not in comics as long as I have, they may think it's a big deal. Comics in general have really lost a lot of the drama and the tension that comes from heroes protecting their secret identity, people trying to find out their secret identity. And to me, it's just a step back. One of the cool things about Superman were those funny stories sometimes where you had Lana Lang trying to prove that Clark Kent was Superboy and things like that. There's just certain things that made Superman fun, even though it kind of like had people rolling their eyes at times and stuff. They're right on the DC solicitation. Okay, there we go. Not a spoiler. It's on DC solicitations. Awesome. Nice to know, Dylan Dog. They made a movie years ago, American production. I guarantee that's what I saw, and I bet it was on Netflix or something, and it made me back up. There's another show on Netflix I highly recommend people. It's called End of the Effing World, which is fantastic. I found out it was based on a European comic, and next month in November, they've got part 2 coming out. Absolutely love that. And I got on eBay trying to find like a trade or anything of that comic, and oh my God, it was through the roof. All right. Okay, guys. Well, I think that's it. I want to get this mess up. Thanks for hanging in there. And before I go, I've got a little bit of a DVD lot, a season lot, right? I've got, a little stack over here that I've accumulated. Would you guys be willing to watch a live show where we just sort of talk about a few TV shows? There we go. ComX, meet Paulo Costa. Paulo is into European comics because he's from Europe also. I know Dylan Dog, but from Bonelli. I prefer Martian Mystery with Nathan Never. Very cool. Okay, guys, that's it. Thanks for hanging in there. And we might do another live show later on where we show few DVD sets, talk some TV movies and stuff. Cool. All right, guys. Be excellent to each other.